Whenever I make my Cioppino with Littleneck clams, it brings back such great memories of a trip to Rome, Italy. I love this restaurant, perched on the top of the Spanish Steps. I loved it so much I ate there 3 nights in a row, and they served the most delicious Cioppino. Okay, let's roast our tomatoes. I love to roast Roma tomatoes because they're super meaty and they don't give off a lot of liquid, so you don't have to worry about all that water diluting your delicious broth. So just cutting them in quarters. And roasted tomatoes are so versatile. I use them for so many different things. You can add them to salads. You could serve them with some grilled meats. I like to add them, because I'm always cooking Italian, I like to add them to my pasta sauce, pizza, bruschetta, and even in the morning, just put them right in your scrambled eggs. And then just have 4 garlic cloves peeled and ready. We're gonna smash those. And that's really easy to do. You just press the blade of your knife right on the garlic, use the palm of your hand, and you're just gonna smash it. This is gonna really release the flavor of the garlic. See, they'll just look just like that. Let me smash that one real good. And if you get a little garlic in, just go ahead and chop that off. There we go. Now let's add about a tablespoon of olive oil. Bring that closer. Sprinkle some salt on the top. Then we're going to mix the tomatoes. Make sure they're good and coated. Now transfer them to a parchment lined baking sheet. I've preheated my oven to 400 degrees. And let's let them roast in the oven for about 30 to 40 minutes. Oh, these look amazing. And you know when they're perfectly roasted when you touch them and they're soft and juicy. Perfect. Let's whip our ricotta mixture together. So I like to drain my ricotta in a cheesecloth. So let's unwrap it. See, the cheesecloth is already moist. And one thing I like to do, because you don't want your cheese to be too watery, just give it a gentle squeeze and you'll be surprised how much more liquid comes out. Perfect. So I'm going to transfer that right into my bowl. Perfect. It's the perfect consistency. So I like to brighten up the ricotta flavor a little bit. So I'm going to coarsely grate 1 lemon. Beautiful. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. Okay. And now with a whisk, let's just blend it together. This is the perfect creative modern garnish. I love to incorporate this in my Cioppino. It really cuts through the acidity of the tomatoes and the broth, and it just gives like a bright, creamy flavor to the dish. It'll make the broth even a little creamier. It's also a little bit of a cooling element that we add to the dish, and it's so pretty. Okay, so let's start sauteing our diced fennel and diced white onion. So I've got my stock pot here and putting a little olive oil in there. And let's add our onions and our fennel. And we're gonna saute this just until the onions become translucent. So with Cioppino, the traditional way to make it is using garlic, parsley, oregano, basil, bay leaf. But I like to change it up a little bit. So I'm not using any basil or oregano, but instead I'm adding some smoked paprika and saffron. I am a big fan of saffron. It imparts a really beautiful golden color, and it's got a nice floral, earthy, sweet flavor. I think it adds a really nice depth to the Cioppino. And the anise really just adds such a nice aromatic depth to this dish. My grandmother always served fresh fennel with the fruit for after dinner. She always said it was the perfect palate cleanser. Okay, now for the fun part, let's add our spices. So for a little heat, some crushed red pepper, a nice bay leaf, saffron, some thyme, smoked paprika, some crushed fennel seeds. So go ahead and give that a really good stir. And now we're going to add some white wine. You want nice, crisp white wine. If you really want to use a red wine, you can use Chianti, but white is my favorite for this. Oh, the flavor, the smell. We have a good batch going on. Some fresh black pepper, and let this simmer for about 10 minutes. Well, it's coming together nicely. Let's add our roasted tomatoes right to the pot and the garlic. Have the lid to your pot ready, because we're going to let this simmer for about 15 minutes. Once we get everything in there, we've got our fish stock. A little bit of sugar. And then some red wine vinegar. Okay, let's put our lid on, just not all the way. Leave it a little open and we'll let that simmer for 15 minutes. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, it's perfect. So let's go ahead and remove our bay leaf. Let's turn our flame off and we'll let it cool for 10 minutes. I like to use an immersion blender. Just submerge the blade all the way in the bottom. And we want this completely blended. Oh, this is perfectly smooth. But don't worry, if you don't have an immersion blender, you can just do this right in a food processor or a blender. Okay, let's add our crab. I'll stir that in. Ooh. It's starting to smell like a coastal kitchen. Let's cover it. And we'll just set it aside. So I've added my diced chorizo into a cold skillet. I've got my oven set on warm. And we're going to go ahead and cook this on medium heat just until it gets to the point where it's just shy of crispy. So this is perfect. The chorizo is done just before it turns crispy. We've got a good amount of oil that came off of the chorizo. So I'm going to remove the chorizo, put it in a warm oven, and we're going to leave that wonderful chorizo oil right in the pan. Have a little bit of olive oil at the ready, just in case you need a little bit more fat to sear the shrimp. And I'm just going to place them in the pan. And we're going to sear these for about 2 minutes aside. Oh, chorizo oil is so delicious. It's going to give you that nice smoky flavor. So let's sear the second side for 2 more minutes. Then I'm going to transfer it to a parchment lined baking sheet. Let's cook our fish. I love monkfish. My mother made this all the time. She called it poor man's lobster. It's delicious. So I have patted dry my fish. You want to get all the excess moisture out, because you don't want your broth to be watery. And I like to dredge it in flour. I also add a little bit of black pepper. I like to dredge it because it really gives a nice outer texture to the fish. It's nice and crispy. And the flour helps the fish hold together. You don't want it to be mushy and soggy in the Cioppino. Let's fry these about 4 minutes aside. Okay, the fish look really good. We got a nice crust on all the sides of the fish. I'm going to transfer them to a parchment lined baking sheet, and then I'm going to place the baking sheet right in the warm oven. All right, let's check on the clams. I usually steam them 3 to 5 minutes, and I poured the remaining white wine in there with a tablespoon of butter, and these clams are looking perfect. You want them to open up. Any clams that don't open up, make sure to throw them away. You don't want them in your Cioppino. And before I even began steaming them, I scrubbed them really good with cold water. And they've opened up beautifully. So I added that delicious clam broth right into the big pot, stirred it up. Oh, it's going to be so delicious. Let's assemble our Cioppino. First, let's start with our ricotta. Put that right in the middle. Now let's ladle our broth right around the cheese. And this broth is so versatile. You can serve this as an appetizer or a soup course, just on its own. And don't forget you have all that delicious crab meat right in that broth. Okay, let's add some shrimp. Okay, let's add our fish. Oh, it's looking so pretty already. Let's arrange our clams. Look at how beautifully open they are. Oh, this dish is such a showstopper. Okay, let's add some chorizo. This adds some real pretty color too. And some parsley. And I love to serve this with some delicious toasted bread. I like the San Francisco style sourdough bread, and I just basically cook it on a skillet. I brush it with some olive oil, rub some garlic on there, and this is the perfect bread to soak up this delicious broth. I love Cioppino. Seafood is such an important thing in my family. My maternal great-grandfather actually was a fisherman in Italy. So my mom and all my aunts and uncles grew up eating tons of seafood, as well as my grandma. And so I just carry on that tradition of loving the seafood too and sharing it with family and friends.